The coffee dating problem. At some point I thought I was defending coffee and conversation being a great medium for connection and meeting of minds until I started to read the comments and I started to see, yeah, we got to take these bitches to coffee. Yes, that's how we get them. Coffee. I ain't doing nothing else with you but coffee first. I figured out I'm trying to, and I said, whoa, the whole thing is getting corroded. I'm losing the plot here. This is not what I was fighting for, what I was defending. Because at some point, right, I feel like there was a parasocial situation going on because a lot of people are having trauma and PTSD from experiences that they haven't lived themselves. You're taking in all these stories, all these experiences of people that some people have lived it, yes, understandably, but a lot of it is people that are not living these things for real. And you have a lot more people now who are not coffee enthusiasts or conversationalists, like butting heads and have been in this conversation about it. It's the same problem with the whole I love sapiosexuals. Everybody loves sapiosexuals, but somehow nerds are complaining about not getting laid enough. So somebody's lying. The sapios don't sapping. Somebody is lying. And that's where we're at with the whole coffee situation, because there's a cross reference. There's a conflict here because there are a lot of frauds in the mix. There's a lot of fraudulent behavior, And then there were people who would argue with me and say stuff like, but what if I don't drink coffee? You're not just going to force me to coffee. That's an interrogation. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's an interrogation. But as far as I'm concerned, from the late, I would say all the way from the 20s, even the 30s, coffee was just always like a figure of speech for like a medium for conversation. I don't think it was ever a thing where I'm bringing somebody to coffee to audit them. It was never an auditing process. But I think that we're in a generation where everyone is trying to avoid hurt and everyone is trying to calculate heartbreak. And that is where we have the issues, because everything else in life has promised us ease. You have streaming, you have delivery services. Everything has promised us ease. And if there was no ease, we also have customer service. So we can just call and have everything rectified or even get our money returned to us, but we can't do that with our time. So that's where we're at. And we're trying to treat people like products. We're trying to make sure that we get full-on reviews, hence the T-apps and the other things. We're trying to make sure that we get a return of investment before we even engage. We're trying to make sure of a lot of things. But the truth is, you can't calculate life. Some of the best things in life are not predictable, are not things that you can calculate. And you can say that for anything, from science all the way down to just day-to-day simple living. A lot of life can be calculated. So this whole coffee dating problem is not coffee dating. Of course, it's not as simple as that. Of course, there's many other things going on, because some people feel like the coffee date wasn't worth the hurt. So they're like, oh my God, I would rather have gone to Nobu if you're going to hurt me, and I understand that narrative, but it's once again, the paradating situation. Causation is not exactly correlation, right? We just have this idea that if we did this would have happened, or if we did that would have happened. And it's the human nature, it's the human thing to do, right? Just live in perpetual regret, just constantly go back again. But I think that if there is purity and a sense of intentionality and love for coffee and conversation that you can find out, or you can fish out between you and the person that you're connecting with, absolutely, I will defend coffee and a date for the rest of my life for that. But because what I'm noticing also is the fact that a lot of people don't want to admit, and I understand how hard it is. You have 15,000 degrees, 400 jobs, 5,000 resumes, and so much. And somehow you're being told that you don't have emotional intelligence to actually read between the lines and cues. I understand how that could feel. But in all honesty, a lot of people have shortcomings in that area. And what that does is it has you going on coffee dates with people that you clearly do not have a conversational connection with or spark with. I'm not a professional by any regard, right? I'm just saying this off of common sense, which is so not common anymore. But I hope you can understand what I'm saying. It's not the date. It's the inability to read the cues before the date. And coffee is not just let's go for coffee. It is a figure of speech for let's go to somewhere where there's dessert, snacks, things that are fun, right? A cafe rarely ever just has coffee. They have many things, knickknacks, a lot of things. So you could have tea, you could have matcha, you could have a smoothie. There's so many things you could have. There's so many things. You could have a rooibos. You could go crazy, but it's never that simple, you know. So that's my take on the coffee date problem. I wish we would just be a lot more honest, but that's too much. That's asking too much of human beings. It's not what we do. It's not our specialty. So I get it. I completely understand. Okay, so I'm stepping away from it. After this, we're done.